second. All right, how you doing, Shawn?
I'm doing good. How are you, Malcolm?
I am doing good. Been a long day of recording. It's been a long day of traveling for you, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
Man, thank you for coming in.
I appreciate
Thank
it.
you for coming in. So, hey, man, you're an interesting guy. We just met last weekend, or well, it's been I don't know, it's been longer than that, but a couple weeks ago. And you're an interesting guy, successful. So that should be on a podcast. 'Cause, man, tell everybody who you are and what you do and all that good stuff.
Man, I'm just a small town guy, raised in Arkansas with my grandparents. Was educated in a small town called Conway, just north of Little Rock, Arkansas, home of our past president, Bill Clinton. And after graduating from there, I went to the University of Arkansas, got my bachelor's degree. Then I moved to New York City for a little bit, worked in finance, and then I moved overseas and had the opportunity to play a little baseball on the semi-pro level.
Really? I didn't know. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What position did you play?
So I grew up playing pitcher, outfield, but there I was signed as a pitcher. So.
Oh wow! No kidding.
Yeah.
That's freaking awesome, man.
Had the second opportunity and decided to take it. So I went it.
Really?
My whole family was a little bit upset because I had a pretty good career going in the finance world, and a lot of people want to get to the the upper echelon of New York.
Yeah.
It's a big hub for finance throughout the world, not just for the U.S. but for the world. And my grandparents are very traditional in that matter, but I had a very supportive grandfather. Supported me in everything that I did, and that's one reason. He's a big reason why I've been able to accomplish the things that I've accomplished up until now.
I feel the same way about my career. If it wasn't for my grandmother and grandfather, I probably wouldn't be sitting here. That's for sure. I mean, they helped out a lot as far encouragement more than anything. I mean, and that's a good backbone to have because grandparents, man, I'm about to be a grandpa and I'm gonna be
Congratulations.
I'm gonna be the best grandpa in the world. And I can't wait to meet the little shit.
They will change your life. Always.
So what position and the company that you run? I mean, what do you do as far as you said? You changed your because I read your bio and stuff. I wanted to know, like, you're still chief security.
Chief
strategy officer. I mean, but tell everybody like what you do.
Well, we're kind of new to the telecom industry. We spent the last 5 years. We're a 5G and beyond telecom solution provider out of Houston, Texas. We spent the last 5 years bringing our technology to commercialization, and here we are. We want to show the world what true 5G and beyond technology really is.
Oh wow! Well, that has nothing to do with the oil industry.
Yes. I stepped out of the oil industry after being 14 years. It's been great. I have nothing to say bad about the oil and gas.
Right.
But everyone knows that studies the market. It's very cyclical, in that it's you have all these ups and downs, and
Right.
after so many years going through those ups and downs, there becomes a time in a man's life where you have to make a decision. And I had the opportunity to step into venture capital and work for a family office. And after doing that for about a year, I decided, hey, I can do this myself. And a good friend of mine, one of my best friends, I call him my brother. His name is Clifton Cabanas. He's real big into real estate. Him and I decided to open a boutique consulting firm out of Fort Smith, Arkansas. And now we've kind of expanded, being with the company that I'm currently with, which is, their name is P-Talk Corporation. They're out of Houston, Texas.
Okay, so that's not an oil.
No.
I'm sorry.
All technology.
All technology and 5G. I've got a ton of questions for you, man.
All right.
This is great. So okay, so you hear these rumors, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, you hear. I'm serious. This is just you see stuff on the internet and you read stuff and you hear people talking. So is 5G going to change our lives?
It is, and it's going to change it for the better. 5G technology, I think a lot of the responsibility for the 5G providers in the world. The responsibility for them to educate the public. That's a real big thing that we're trying to push at P Talk, is actually educating the public about 5G technology and how it's going to change the world and change people's lives and how they do things. And it's not going to be necessarily a thing where they have to be worried about the changes. It's more of, it's going to make their life that much more easier, things more accessible. Data's going to be able to transfer at a lot faster rate. Speeds of downloading, uploading technology, like videos, gaming, especially with the architecture that's involved right now with the my mind went blank here, but it's the metaverse. With our technology, we're going to completely change the whole scope of metaverse.
Well, I guess the big question that the people would want to know, that especially watch the podcast, because if you haven't noticed, I've had a lot of crazy people on my podcast. Not that that's bad. I think it's awesome. I don't know what the upside down matrix is. I'm still trying to figure that one out. And I love Eric Baker. I don't know if you've watched that podcast yet, but you need to, because the whole time I'm sitting here, I can understand you a lot better than I can understand him. But it's okay though. I mean, because there's a certain awakening of technology, I think, that's happening in our society that's freaking crazy. But the big question is, can they hear us talking? And can they does your phone hear you, or your TV or your iPad or your computer, and know that that's the ad to put up there? Because it just so happens I've experienced that in a weird way. I mean, and so everybody else does too. So is that true or is that not true?
I can't comment too much on that, but what I want to say is that it's more of an algorithm. When you're searching for something, let's say on your phone, you may inadvertently have something come up through an email or someone text you something. There are bots that go into your different, as far as your you have all these apps that you download on your phone. They have, when you agree that you download those apps, a lot of people don't read the fine print, as we say, and in there it says that they have the ability to follow your everything you do, pretty much. So when you're searching for something through that app, it sends it out to multiple.
Okay, I have to ask this because we just got through talking about it, and you know what? If we want to cut this out of the podcast, that's fine. But I gotta ask. So a buddy of ours, he texted me just earlier. Hey, spit or tater hole. Okay, so. I'm serious. Well, he said it in other words, but okay. So, does the text message, does that like trigger porn sites and stuff?
Yeah. I mean, it can trigger that as well. I mean,
so let me just ask you this. So let's say I'm going home, and let's say me and the old lady's getting freaky, and I pull up freaking Pornhub. Is some crazy shit like that going to pull up? Could
it could? Yes.
Are you serious?
It all depends.
I'm gonna kill him, man. That's freaking funny,
And the thing is that a lot of people have to be careful. What I love educating people on technology and how it works, and I'm just getting into it myself. I've only been in it 4.5 years now, but I'm a very fast learner. And one thing that I can tell you is that everyone should be careful what they type in their search engine, because everything gets reported to the cloud, from your pictures to your text messages to everything. It's all, it's cloud-based technology. I mean, there are some separate, technologies and software systems, but most everything is reported to the cloud nowadays.
Well, now when you say reported, okay, so.
Well, I don't want to say reported. Let me restate that. What I want to say is it goes to the cloud, like it's streamed across as data. So they have that technology.
If someone kiddingly around, though, if they're kidding around and they're saying they're gonna go, man, I'm gonna kill that something, and they say something like that, does there a red flag? Is there something that goes somewhere that
our government has several different ways of detecting. It's called a threat detection, voice monitoring system.
That's interesting.
I can't talk too much about it. I'm not really that directly involved, but I know just from being in the industry, what you hear and what you've been told by people that actually work with DoD and DARPA. The thing is that they have the access because they have to, right? It's everything that revolves around national security. There's certain words that you shouldn't use because if you use it more than a certain amount of times, it creates a log, and then it starts recording everything you say after that. And
Oh wow.
so you have to be very careful.
Well, I
And,
mean, man, I got so many things to ask. So, and I know it's kind of maybe redundant, but take for instance, okay. Let me tell you. Okay, let me back up for a second before I started on that because because me, I'm a character, and and there's certain private pictures I have on my freaking phone that I don't want people to see. Do you
Sure.
think is that a bad idea?
You're talking about to keep them.
I'm talking about can somebody take this stuff off your cloud?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, the people's iClouds get hacked all the time.
That's scary.
I don't know if you remember. I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago. The great hackers of the world hacked into all these movie stars and famous athletes' accounts, and basically they exposed their personal life and everything in it. And
Right.
there was some really provocative stuff that was released.
Right.
Obviously, our government does a really good job of shutting that down as quick as they can. But, obviously it gets out there in other, they call it the black web.
So you're telling me if my old lady wants to take more naked pictures of me,
Yeah.
that I should get in shape?
Probably so. Either that or not to take those pictures.
No, but no, I'm very serious. Like, but what about? And this is like something everybody wants to know.
Sure.
Let's say you have one of them drunken nights and you do something stupid and you do video, some stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it goes to the cloud because it always does, and it saves. When you erase it, is it gone or is it still there?
That's a good question.
Like you can't tell me.
It's supposed to be erased from your phone, but as you well know, everything is cataloged to an extent. Our government does a good job of writing laws in a certain manner.
You're making me have a panic attack now.
But I don't want to get it twisted either to where it makes everyone a fearmonger, but because that's not what I'm here to do. But people need to be very aware of what the content that they expose.
So you're saying if you are going to do something like that, to have it on a separate.
Yeah, get you a VPN, virtual private network that's secure.
I'm asking these questions because what everybody else is going to. Every married couple in the world does stupid shit, know, and they have their kinks, and sometimes some of them don't care. People know, and some people don't. Some people care, some people don't care. So, but okay, let me go back to what I was going to ask you. So this is a true story, and okay, so I have my best friend back from Missouri. And we're duck hunters, right?
Yeah.
That's our big thing is killing ducks every year. I'm not really care about killing them. I love calling them and I love watching them work, and it's just a rush, to me. But because you get older, man, I'd rather just not shoot that duck and have to go get him. You know what I mean? He gonna have to get pretty close to me for me to take a shot because I just don't care to get up and go get him.
Yeah.
Unless we have a dog, and my dog, she passed away a little while back, so I haven't been as into duck hunting. I went once this year already, but that's it. But so here I am, and this is honest. This is what happened, and it freaked me out. I'm laying in here on the futon one night. I stayed down here, and I was thinking, that's it. I was thinking, man, I need to buy a new duck call because I'm going duck hunting next week with my best friend Neil, and I couldn't sleep, didn't type anything in, didn't talk to anybody. I haven't thought about duck hunting in months because I've been on a record. I go outside, I look on my phone, I go to Facebook, and there's a duck call from Bass Pro Shop ad. Now, I know that sounds maybe. No, it's not. So, can 5G, can it read your mind?
No. It's nothing like that. It's more of
But now, are you just telling us that,
no. I mean, let me tell you something.
or is that just
Technology.
That's just all urban legend stuff?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things people try to put out there because they're against technology advancement. But technology advancement only helps us in all the sectors, from education to healthcare to government to finance. I mean, it's to be honest with you, to answer your question, no, it cannot. But I will tell you this. If you were looking at something duck hunting, or you type something in where you're talking about duck calls, Facebook gets all that information back to them, so they automatically know from what you've typed in or tried to search for, especially if you do it on Facebook, right? If you're on their marketing site where they're selling, people are selling stuff on Facebook, right? I don't have Facebook. I got off of it a long time ago, but I know people that they shop on Facebook. So if you do that, they have that information about you. So they're going to put that on your Facebook page. It might just come up as an ad, right? That
Right.
You said it came up as an ad, right? When you opened up Facebook, there was, so that's normal. That's normal. It happens.
So could it been, because this is very, very informative, man. This is awesome. Because was it from a conversation that we had on the phone?
I'm not gonna say it couldn't have happened that way, but I would say it's more likely of more of your searches on different apps, or maybe.
It's just weird that
Yeah.
that came up, and I was just thinking about it. Now, I do remember earlier, like that day, of course, I'm like, I'm coming, and, and he's like talking about how he's got better tone than me. I was like, I'm a record producer. You don't have better tone than me. That's ridiculous. I mean, some farmer,
Right.
But I mean, I'm not belittling him but he's got the ears of a Dutch Catholic farmer in Missouri, and I got the ears of a pro freaking, producer. But so you're saying couldn't come from a conversation?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think everyone knows, as far as voice recognition, our government pretty much monitors that. Your private, I would have to go back and actually look at what Facebook's agreement is when you sign up for Facebook, if they're allowed to listen to your phone. But most people, I don't think Facebook has the ability to do that, just because of the legal ramifications for Facebook. I think it's more of the government would have that accessibility always, but Facebook, I don't think they have the ability to do it.
Okay, and we're gonna get a little deep here. Okay, besides an algorithm, an algorithm as being like keywords you use,
Sure.
like, okay, because I got so many questions. I gotta slow down here. I guess there's all these things which I've seen. Okay, let's go to FEMA for a second.
Okay.
The FEMA camps have been built south of here. Okay, now, I have my theory,
Sure.
and these other people I hang out with, and some people I don't hang out with anymore that freak me out when they talk about this kind of thing. There's fields of disposable coffins, that kind of thing. There's these camps look like they're freaking concentration camps, right? So here's my question. Would 5G, could they figure out who's really bigots and who's really racist and who's really, like if there is neo-Nazis here in the United States, let's say there is this a way that the Homeland Security can dive in and make their way through the crevices and can it legally be, well, I guess right now it couldn't legally be held, but could it be documented somewhere that you're on this list of people that are prejudiced, bigots, or freaking racist, or let's say a thief, that talks about stealing from people or does bad things? Is there any way they can take the 5G to use that?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, 5G is way bigger than just this particular instance. It's it's going to change the world. But to answer your question, the government always has accessibility. Just remember that.
Right.
So if they're wanting to monitor a particular place for a particular reason, they have all the assets, they have all the resources to make that happen. And whether or not they have 3G, 4G, or 5G, they're still going to be able to obtain that information. So 5G doesn't really dictate their ability to obtain that information, I guess is what I'm trying to say. What it does is it allows them to maybe gather more data at a faster rate in real time than what they would have with previous technology.
Okay.
So they can get it in real time.
Okay, I'm thinking like what to ask first.
Sure.
Okay, I guess what scares everybody about this technology?
I think there's a lot of conspiracy theories that are out there. Like I think one of them I've heard that I laugh at a lot was that you know 5G was brought on by extraterrestrial people, which okay, I mean maybe, but that's not really what it is.
Do you work for the aliens?
No, we do not.
Hey man, you made a friend here that's an alien.
Right.
So
And also, there's a big push, I think, about the health scare of 5G technology, and a lot of people saw the infrastructure of when the world went from 3G to 4G technology. There was a huge infrastructure build out because we didn't have it at the time. But one thing about 5G technology, specifically with ours, we're software based. And we have some proprietary technology. I'm just going to kind of go in a little bit about our technology. True 5G technology will not harm the environment. It will not harm animals or humans. There was a study done on our specific technology that we use by the University of Tokyo, and there's no ill effects to any of those three. And so with 4G infrastructure, obviously, the last mile is the biggest complication for most telecoms or communication providers. And we actually changed the game for that because you no longer have to worry about digging up a city block to get fiber to get your connection to your receiver or your, what people know as, your towers and things of that nature. So
is this via satellite?
Everything is pretty much satellite. You look at Elon Musk.
That was one of my questions because I'm wondering like how Elon Musk and his plan. Yeah, just what's it called?
Starlink.
Starlink is going to affect you. Is it going to affect?
No, it doesn't really affect us. Actually, I can't talk too much about it, but we've actually been talking with Starlink about our technology because he actually needs our technology because, I think it was right before COVID, I was in Washington, D.C. meeting with the chief of staff for NASA. And the plan was for us to go into an R&D with NASA because of our ability to provide deep space communications with low latency, where astronauts could actually go to deep space and communicate back home with the station without having any latency issues.
Wow.
That's
when you
big.
say deep space, you're talking past the moon.
Yes, I'm talking about deep space, where they send in some of our space stations.
Wow.
That are in deep space, some of our satellites, the big thing that I think they struggle with is when you even in the movies when you watch you see the on the news. Let's just say on the news. Let's say we're watching CNN or Fox or MSNBC. When they're shooting videos from space and they're talking to astronauts, right. A lot of times they run into issues with signal delay, things of that nature because it's so far. With the specific technology that we use, we can pretty much provide
So,
information.
so you're saying 5G is light speed?
It is. It changes everything, and
Wow, is it that big of a jump in
it
technology?
is. It's huge. It's going to affect everything. I mean, from soldiers in the battlefield to athletes on the playing on the field. I looked at some technology when I went over to Dubai. They have one of the largest telecommunications technology conferences. It actually is the largest one in the world, and it's called GITEX. And I went there and I observed all the things that 5G is affecting in the IoT space, and it is phenomenal what it's affecting. Anything from like I explained, soldiers on the battlefield to athletes to people in the financial world for banking and trading and you know let's take an example. 5G changes the whole scope of traders, especially when you're talking about speed trading, in that they can now do multiple trades in under a millisecond, which that may not mean a lot to a lot of people, but in the tech world it's huge because you know now instead of waiting, you can make multiple trades, and let's say through those multiple trades, you're making your company X amount of dollars. Well, when 5G comes in and changes that, I make your speed 100 times faster, and I make your data rate 1,000 times faster, or excuse me, not 1,000 times faster, but 1,000 times more capacity on your data rate. You can only imagine. You can only imagine what that does to.
Because one penny on a big trade
Yeah.
is a lot, or
Sure.
a half a cent,
Hmm.
and if billions or millions of dollars even or is involved, then you're talking about the difference is like you can get your trade in before it changes, the market changes. Is that
Well,
what
I
you
mean,
mean?
you're doing more trades per, let's say, per minute, which allows you to make more revenue for.
Is that going to make the market go up and down faster? And
I mean, it'll affect
how
them. It'll affect the market tremendously, in that it will allow more trades and more volume. Anytime if you look at the Nasdaq, the S&P, or the New York Stock Exchange, when you look at those and you look at the volume of trades that are done and every day, it's going to affect that tremendously.
so the European trade market and the
Hmm.
American trade market,
Hmm.
they've never been really synced, right? So
I mean, it's not
what,
in synced. In what way are you talking about? Just with the trading environment, or what do you mean?
seems to me like there can be a certain like oil and gas is a good example.
Sure.
How the market can be up a little bit higher in Europe than it is in America, and it
Sure.
just kind of fluctuates back and forth. And will it sync those kind of markets up? And will traders, will this go to a 24-hour trade market as far as like the European and the euro and dollar?
I think it will push that way at some point. I don't know if I'll see it in my lifetime, but probably will. Just because we'll have more access, and the markets will be able to. I don't want to necessarily say sync, but nowadays, traders are having to. Let's say if I work for Goldman Sachs and
Right,
I have clients in the Middle East. I have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning because the markets are open. Right. I
right.
have to trade. I think that those days will somewhat be. I don't want to say put to rest because you always have a different in time zone, right? But I think just the access and the ability to be able to have the access to trade on a bigger volume is going to change all the markets in the world. I don't necessarily think it's going to sink it in the aspect that you're talking about, but that
Right,
would be very
right.
difficult. But as far as volume, yes, it's gonna
Okay, I
change.
got some pretty hairy questions, and we can go over this. But
Sure.
we don't have, we can edit whatever. But
Mhm.
I have to ask: do you feel that this is going to, I don't know how to ask this question? I'm trying to think of an intelligent way to ask it because it's kind of hard.
Mhm.
Is this going to make the richer get even more rich and the poor get even more poor, and divide the middle class up?
You know, as It all depends on government and the regulation or deregulation and the systems that you're putting in, because now you have crypto and Bitcoin and blockchain, all these
Well, that's going to be
stuff.
my next.
Yeah,
Because
it's going to change everything. It's going to change the whole game. I think everyone needs to watch out for. There's going to be a big reset in the global scheme of things. I would say in the next 24 months, in my opinion. I don't want to. I'm not a.
you think 5G is going to change it that much?
Well, 5G is not going to change that part of it. I just think that the financial sector itself is headed towards a huge reset. And when I say reset, I think it's headed towards a reset like we saw in the 20s with the depression. We're not going into a recession this time. I think it's going to be more of a depression.
Oh, it's going to go that low.
Oh, it's going to go that low. Yes, sir.
Wow.
We can't outrun inflation. I mean, if you look at the true inflation rate, I think everyone has to do their own research and not be a sheep in the world. And once you do your own research, you'll truly see what the true inflationary rate is, not just here in the U.S. but globally. And if you study that and you look at the true matrix of it, I don't know how we haven't already gone bust. I think everyone's on borrowed time at the moment, and I think that the markets are going to reset real soon. So I encourage everyone, especially people that are close to me,
Right.
to buy hard assets. Get yourself some gold and some silver and hang on to it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's scary stuff. Because, well, okay, well, okay. I got questions about that. I guess I could go ahead and ask. The problem with the gold and the silver is I have found out that when the market is up and you do get ready to sell it, getting somebody to buy it by the time it's all exchanged and everything, the market's either down. You know what I mean? It's like that's the problem. I had a buddy come by here with a truckload of silver one day and said, I'm headed to Detroit to drop this off because this buddy of mine found a buyer and I got to go take this up there. He was his financial advisor, one of the same guys that advised me financially. And he said the problem with it is finding the buyer fast enough to buy it before the market goes up and down. And how do you feel about that? You think it's a good investment to do the gold thing?
Absolutely. You have to be diversified in everything you do in life, and especially in your financial world. I think that having gold and silver is a good investment. Obviously you want to try to buy as low as you can because the market's going to go up. But if you look at the forecast for gold right now, it's supposed to go up to 3,000 an ounce, and they're predicting it very.
Okay, here's an off-the-wall question. You're gonna love this one.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you like Blackbeard? Are you like burying this stuff out in the woods somewhere? You got a treasure chest?
Well, that's a funny question. I'll tell you a funny story. My granddad told me that when he was young, he remembered during the Depression when the government was coming and seizing all the gold from everyone, and the banks were shutting down, and people were actually trying to get back into the bank and get their gold. And so, right, because at that point, the dollar, the paper was nothing. Fiat is done. And so he remembers people trying to get back into the bank and get their assets. And I remember my granddad growing up, he always believed in keeping, a couple $100,000 in precious metals. In case something went south, right? Which, if you go through the Depression like that, you would live your life in that manner, right? Make
right, I
decisions
can
around
see
it.
why.
But I would advise anyone that has has the ability to purchase, yes, keep it in your possession. Don't put it in the bank. Figure out where you're going to put it, whether you build a vault in your house or.
And just don't tell people you got it in there.
Exactly. Absolutely.
So they won't rob your family and hold it.
Absolutely.
Well, see, that's what scares me about it. But I'm you hear everybody has these me. I mean, I'm more worried about the market falling so hard that there's no food to have because of this whole blockade that happened down in New Orleans. And when a blockade, it was just everybody lined up. They couldn't get there wasn't enough truck drivers and all this crazy stuff. And yeah. That's a good question. I've got like 1 million, buddy. We can sit here for 4 hours. I'm telling you. Okay, so back to 5G for just a minute,
Sure.
because I mean I don't want to get off track here, but I have to, because I'm so interested in this.
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to help the new like electric truck driver? Because we did a thing on
Oh, absolutely.
our thing saying, okay, so is GPS going to go up in freaking detail?
Yes, absolutely.
And
It's gonna tremendously be able to give a driver, not just a truck driver, but any driver. Let's just say you go to Best Buy or Walmart, wherever it is, and you're buying a GPS system for your car, and you hook it up. Yeah, 5G is going to change all of that. Instead of, sometimes you get a little bit of latency when you're driving in a city somewhere.
right.
Obviously everyone's on their phone, or you have many hand devices on a phone. That's what causes the latency, because when you have a core, only so many users can be on that core set, right?
That's going to be one of my questions here in a minute. Is like, where's all this stored? But anyway, by the way, so I read an article. And actually, we actually had something. We got a thing called Tater Talk. It's me and Junior and this redneck buddy of mine, Case. It's a picker. He's a session player here in Nashville. And we get on here talking about crazy stuff all the time. And I had read this article, and we talked about it on Tater Talk one time, that the trucking industry, like the trucking industry, literally the trucking industry, will be manless within the next 10 years. Do you feel like it's going to be that fast, or do you think
No, I think that's, to me, the technology will be there. Obviously, I think I think we actually have the technology, but with anything, you actually have to test it. It's kind of like the pharmaceutical industry when they're testing something to pass as a drug to use, or something you can use for cancer or heart disease, whatever the case may be. Usually, it's a 8 to 10 year process, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, when I've read about it anyway. I think that it's going to be a little bit longer, obviously, because you're talking about big trucks and box trucks going down the road unmanned that have to start and stop on their own. They have to be able to delineate between, what is is there a wreck ahead, or is there a person on a bike riding beside my truck? Do I need to swerve to the left or swerve to the right? I mean, there's all these different functions that are going to have to be tested to a T to failure, as we say in the technology world. And you're going to have to test it to a point where there is no, repercussion in human life. And what I mean by that is if you have an 18-wheeler truck going down the road at 70 miles an hour, 65, 70 miles an hour, that's unmanned, and we can't get the technology right, it's going to kill a lot of people.
Well, now that's, but there's a lot of people getting killed. There's, okay, just in truck driving accidents alone.
Sure.
I've read there's 180,000 people get killed a year in truck driving. Okay, half of them. I have uncles that were truck drivers. I have nothing against truck drivers. Matter of fact, one of my best friends, he owns a trucking company. Matter of fact, he's one of the guys in the band I produce. He does really well for himself. But a lot of those guys are freaking. They've been up for days on drugs, and they're trying to beat the system. They're trying to get to where they're going. So they're doing speed and all kinds of stuff to stay up and whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. If you haven't been awake, or if you've been awake for days and you're not quite with it, the blind spots of a truck driver is pretty freaking bad. I saw something on the actual news about that the other day while we were getting the kids ready for school, and I was like, wow, that's freaking, because I try not to, you got to make sure you know where the blind spot is on the truck so you don't want them swerving over, because it's going to, especially during the holidays. Well, anyway, so I read this thing, and it said that by the year 2030 that we planned on just doing away with the trucking industry, and it's going to be all unmanned vehicles. You don't think it'll be that fast?
I think it'll be a little bit longer than that, to be honest with you, and I think it'll be good because.
Is it bullshit though that China's already doing that?
No, I think they're probably testing it. China
okay.
always tries to be, they'll get a technology, they'll try to re-engineer it, try to make it better. Obviously, they have the resources to do things. But they'll probably test it quicker than we do, because obviously it's always a race between us and China to get something to the market a lot quicker. But at the same time, when it's just kind of like the old school mentality. When you're racing and you're pushing something in technology faster, and you want to bring it to market faster, sometimes you don't see those mistakes that you would have if you would have taken your time. And I think with this particular technology that we're talking about for the particular sector of the market for business, you have to be more meticulous, way more meticulous. And I think what will happen is AI will come along, artificial intelligence will come along, and when we say unmanned, I think it'll be unmanned as far as like maybe a human being inside of it, but I think the trucks will be able to drive themselves to an extent, whether
while the guy sleeps.
Right, exactly.
And he's not into a busy metropolitan area.
Yeah, but I think that I think it's, in my opinion, right now, at least for the next 20 years, I think it would be a little bit unrealistic to believe that there was going to be 18-wheeler trucks driving around the world without anyone inside of them.
Well, the reason why I'm asking is, hey man, I'm a producer, but
Sure.
I'm so interested in stuff like this because it's just, I think about stuff like this all the time because I have kids. You do too, about the same age as mine, and so is there going to be a Hindenburg before we learn our lesson and squeeze the technology together? The Hindenburg, when they had all those things, blimps flying all over the world, all of a sudden the Hindenburg happened and they went, man, this ain't a good idea. This was a really bad idea.
No,
and it killed a lot of people. But do you think that we're going to have to do that before this? It seems like that's what usually has to happen before the humans. I call them the humans, no offense. But the humans don't realize that, hey man, they will make those cost lives before. You think is with this 5G stuff though, that's going to allow that kind of thing to happen faster.
Absolutely. I mean, 5G's, like I said, it's going to change the world. When you can speed something up 100 times faster than what it already is, and provide, with our capacity, basically, I'm going off our capacity, 1,000 times more data capacity to put across the system, as we call it. You change the whole mold, the whole structure of every system, everything that we've known how to do, everything's going to change for the better. It's going to become more streamlined, easier to obtain, et cetera, et cetera. Everything that you look at in the world will change exponentially just because the technology is driving it in that direction.
And do you feel like with the new nuclear I don't even know what to call it, the new technology in nuclear energy,
Sure.
where they know you can have a nuclear reactor the size of your cell phone. With the both together, see, I don't know. You're the expert here. I'm just saying, to a normal guy, like, why wouldn't it speed up the process? Because now we can put a nuclear that basically can fit in your cell phone, a nuclear reactor. They just did this, what was it, 6 months ago? I read a thing on
Yeah,
it.
I think so. The thing about technology, and I think it speaks a little bit about it, not to bring religion into this too much, but it speaks
I
a
was
little
going to
bit
ask you if this was
about
biblical.
it in the Bible. Men will create technology that inevitably will destroy itself in the end. I think we really need to, take that into literal terms, because sometimes it's, we as humans, we're very bright. We create things that can really help the world and help society advance. With nuclear, there's a very fine line in that, and I think it's our responsibility to obtain a certain characteristic with this specific technology that allows for the human race to continue to advance without hurting it, if that makes sense.
Right.
And it's not just humans, but animals and just the environment in general. I'm big on the environment. I'm an outdoors guy. I love to hunt and fish. I love to hike. I'm a big believer in planting trees. My thing is that in the technology world.
Do you believe in transhumanism as far as like with the chip in your head?
No, I don't believe in that.
Okay,
At all.
You think it's a bad idea?
No, not at all.
You think it's a bad idea to put a chip in your head so you can think as fast as you don't have to pull up your phone or nothing. You can just freaking, see it in your eyesight.
No. I mean, I think that once we become there, we're no longer humans anymore. Where someone's thinking for us. Because what you have to understand is those chipsets that you're talking about that can help someone do that.
Right.
I mean, they can also be programmed to do something different as well.
I know I asked some crazy questions.
Yeah.
Do you think that what we're seeing, the military is seeing, the UFOs that you see, do you feel, and I wanted to ask you another question. Russia shot down a UFO. Now, UFO is an unidentified flying object wasn't over Ukraine. It was over their thing. It was in their territory, which I guess Ukraine is part of their territory. Now, I don't know what's going on over there. I really don't care, but I care about people. I just don't. It's not my freaking deal. So I just say it's not my simulation because I've never been there. Do you feel like these things that we're seeing are something that we're creating, or do you feel like it is alien technology? And are we back engineering that?
No.
Is 5G back engineered by? Was it alien technology to begin with? Now this is a serious question. And
sure.
Now look, when we're off the air, you might off the.
No, I will explain what my theory is on it. Just with this slim technological background that I have. What I want to say to everyone out there that's listening is the government has the ability and has had the ability for a very long time to create technology that's far more advanced than what is currently accessible to the public and private sector in the now. So I'm going to take us back one step. If you remember the movie Minority Report.
Yes.
And you remember in there, they're going through and they have these screens and they're just sliding and they're pushing all this stuff around on the screen.
Right.
And they're able to see where someone in the future is going to do this. Obviously, we don't have that technology, but what I'm talking about is the technology on the screen and all of that. When that movie was released, that was supposed to be in year, 2028 or something like that, 2036. I don't remember. I have to go back and look at the movie. But it was way far in the future. So what they did is they were showing us stuff that was supposed to be in the future. That technology already existed.
But not the scene in the future part.
Not seeing in the future. Exactly. We don't have the ability to do that as of yet. I'm not saying we will never get there.
But do you think, okay, I know I'm asking crazy questions, but this has got to be asked. Do you think 5G is going to enable those keywords like that you say every day? Mm-hmm. Okay, because we've already, in private, I can't say on here, but we I've kidded around about what I told my wife I wanted for Christmas, okay? Mm-hmm. Totally freaking kidding. But the whole thing is, when they hear me say that or text that to one of my buddies like Josie Scott from Saliva, it's like, and I'm like, yeah, this is all I want for Christmas. Do they, okay, can they use those words to predict like something happening? Like, I shouldn't use that. That's a bad example. Okay,
not to predict, but what they can do.
I'm going to beat his ass so many times, or I'm going to kick his ass, or I'm going to kill him, or I'm going to call somebody to take care of that. Those type of words and things like that.
Sure.
Do you think they'll ever get to where they can do that?
Well, I don't necessarily think they'll be able to
handcuffs when you're
predict it, but what they'll be able to do is to step in at an earlier setting and stop something from happening that would have happened had they not had the technology to say, okay, well, this guy said I'm going to kill him over 1,000 times in the last 2 months. We need to go see this guy and have a talk with him.
Well, what's a better example? And hey, Shawn, this is the best example. The guy that just killed those 4 students in Idaho. Mm-hmm. Okay, my son actually knew one of the girls that got killed, and he was pretty upset about it. He went to high school with her. Mm-hmm. Her
I'm
brother.
sorry to hear that.
but he's like, Dad, he's like, this is someone I know, And we saw a picture, me and Tiffany, we're like watching the news and everything. That this guy was he was a doctor's in criminology. He was getting a doctor's degree in criminology. And so he knew how to beat the system as it was. But do you think we'll ever have? Would 5G be able to get in those conversations or those text messages? I mean, he has to have said something to somebody about doing this, and catch them before they do it, or have a beat on him and go follow this guy.
What it sounds like to me with this guy, he probably studied the system to a T and probably knew not to put certain things and certain words, because if he's getting a doctorate in a PhD in criminology, then he already knows the system and how it works. So he probably refrained from putting certain things,
keywords
in his emails or in his text messages or saying something on the phone, because he already knows that those are triggers that,
we're talking about a really intelligent guy.
Absolutely.
But how smart could he be leaving the knife sheath, there with his DNA on it?
It just goes to show that sometimes people think they're smarter than what they really are, and I think that in regards to this character, I think that he probably thought that he was smarter than the system, and that he had some alibi or some way of beating the system, even if he left it there, that he would be untouched.
But well, back to seeing the Tom Cruise movie. What's it called?
Minority Report.
Minority Report.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying that the technology though there to do all the stuff in the window and stuff like that. Okay, back to aliens. Do you feel like we got any technology from some other thing?
I tell everyone with this,
5G sure seems like it's alien technologies. I'm sorry, man, but that's ridiculous.
I don't think it's necessarily alien technology, but I will tell you this, that part of our technology had been used by the U.S. military for over 25 years for communications. And
jeez, so they've had the technology for that long.
Yeah, they've had it for a long time. It's nothing new to them. But when you're talking about militaries, they have to have advanced telecommunication technology.
Are they that far ahead of us? Are they 25 years?
I mean, let me say, we have a more commercialized version. I don't want to say dumbed down, because it's not dumb. It's more commercialized version. Obviously, they can't let us release our specific technology. And again, I'm just not saying that 5G, that they had 5G technology. What I'm saying is our specific technology, which is called millimeter wave technology, they had that access to that over 25 years ago in the U.S. military. What we've done is we've actually spent the last 4 or 5 years doing research and development on the technology itself from the patent holders, and we have brought it to a commercialization standpoint to where we can offer it to the public without causing a riff-raff, as they say, for the militarized version, right, of it.
Okay, so let me understand something so everybody else will, because, like I said, I know a little bit more than the average Joe, because I was one of the first engineers to help do the EdNet recording. I recorded Eric Clapton while I was sitting in, this was back in 94. I recorded Eric Clapton sitting in Memphis while he was in Los Angeles. And it was fiber optic. So is 5G really just in the air fiber optic?
Well,
how much faster? Is it better? Is it more solid? Is it more stable?
It is. And the thing is that, I think what most telecom people would tell you is that, going from any way you're advancing the technology, again, I'll go back from 3G to 4G, there was such a huge infrastructure cost, and a lot of telecoms haven't recovered from that.
When you say telecom, you mean
I'm talking about,
companies,
your companies, like, AT&T, Sprint, T-Mobile, things of this nature. Those companies spent tons and tons and tons of money on infrastructure to roll out 4G because it was such an advanced technology. Well, now rolling out the 5G technology is even more advanced, so you can imagine what the cost is going to be there.
But what's the brick and mortar thing going? Okay, so I want to ask you that. That's a good question. Because here's my thing. Because, man, look, you got to understand how humans think. And the half of me that's half human, I go, hang on here. Where is this cloud at? Where is it stored? Is it in California? Is it in Utah? Is it out in the middle of the desert? Is it in Alaska? I mean, and how are we ever going to run out of space? Or are we just going to, I mean, God, I mean, I know that technology has gone to where my hard drives used to be these big, huge freaking slip drives that I slipped in these hot swap drives, right? And my computer was like not even near what I have now.
Sure.
I mean, I don't have even an M1, but I feel like, and I have the trash can over there, by the way.
Yeah.
The trash can Mac, and, the Apple was like, this is the last you're ever going to have to buy. It's the last computer you're going to have to ever buy. That was their whole entire ad, and they suckered me into buying a thing that's really hard to deal with the cables being plugged in. It was their worst design. They freaking finally admitted it. But, where in the hell does all this info go? Where does all the naked pictures that my wife takes of me, where do they go?
It's on the cloud.
But I mean, you're serious. Like,
When you're
saying on the cloud, is
there's
that
a database? There's a database system that.
Is there a physical place that is, and can
Absolutely.
some terrorists go and blow that up?
I mean, there's a database that's held, wherever, let's say Google or.
Does people know where the bases are?
I think there is, yes, but they may not be. They may not be what you think. Let's just say this: you may drive by a paint store one day and say, "Oh, that's just a massive paint store." Well, this may not be a paint store.
Okay, well, that's another question. Dude, I could tear you up all night long. I'm telling you, man. Okay, so between here and Chicago, especially between St. Louis and Chicago, you've driven that before, haven't you?
Absolutely, my daughter lives in Chicago.
Okay. Well, in the middle of Illinois, there's these buildings out in the middle of these fields, and they're freaking massive. I'm talking these are like acres and acres. Like, I'm talking 20-acre buildings. Is that where our freaking cloud is?
I don't.
Or
I wouldn't say it's not. I
or
mean,
do
I
they
don't-
have a halon collider out there that they're testing, and they're just not telling us, and they're saying it's in Switzerland?
Well, I mean, you could do a lot of different things. I mean, I think that information is held in different places around the world just for security reasons, obviously. Like, for instance, the credit card system in the U.S., I think they held their database system is located in 5 or 6 different points around the world. And that's just if, something happened here,
Right.
they'd still have access to it somewhere else.
But those places have got to be heavily guarded.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, anyway.
But again, sometimes you don't know. I mean, again, like you said, a lot of these compounds and structures are not what they really
right.
seem to the naked eye.
Well, I guess the reason why I'm asking this is because I was watching Ancient Aliens last night, because that's a good show for me to go to bed on. Okay, we watch our stuff, and then all of a sudden when it's time to go to bed, I'll turn on Ancient Aliens and boom, I'm done.
Right.
But I did see this thing about when here's wrong me. I'm drawing a blank here. The guy who ran Apple.
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs. So Steve Jobs gets up here and goes, "Hey man, here I'm introducing to you the cloud." Okay, at that point, my question is, did he already have the brick and mortar ready for this to be released?
I think it was years and years and years of his team's hard work. He was a perfectionist. If you ever watched the movie,
Oh yeah, I've seen it.
it took him I don't know how many times to make the first iPhone until they've actually got it right. And even then, he didn't like it, but he released it, right? But my thing is that as far as brick and mortar, I think it took several years for them to get to where they were at, to where,
Okay.
based on Steve Jobs was very demanding.
Do you ever think that the cloud's going to actually be in the cloud, a satellite stored one day?
I mean,
It is 5G.
I wouldn't say that it already isn't.
Okay, that's what I needed to know. That's what everybody wants to know.
Yeah.
It's something that simple. Anyway, okay, so back to the alien part, because you don't think it's alien technology. You think
No, I mean it's man-made. I mean, I don't think we're that far advanced as of now. I mean, my personal beliefs are different than my professional beliefs, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Obviously, the more you educate yourself, the different opinion you're going to have, right? I think that there's some very smart people in this world that can put together a lot of different things that obviously will never be let out to the public. We all know that. The government does a good job, or governments around the world, they do a very good job of allowing us, introducing us to things, whether it be through movie architecture or just through technology companies that release certain things in drones or whatever the case may be. And then the military will all of a sudden come out with something that's far more advanced, but we already know a little bit about it, right? So I think that with 5G technology, a lot of that will change and it'll speed up. It'll speed up the ability of the advancement to the point where technology will just be, people will they'll crave it to a point where they'll have to release the more advanced technology to feed the necessity of the public.
Right. Well, okay. I want to go back to the financial part for a second.
Sure.
I'm not going to wear you out too much more.
No, it's all right.
Do you feel that the 4G investment, as someone who's investing in something,
Mm-hmm.
was a poor investment? And do you think the 5G is going to be a better investment? Is it, when are we going to switch to 6G and all of a sudden your investment goes plummeting?
So here, and I'm not going to try to sell you on our technology, but I will tell you why we're better in that. But to answer your question first, 4G was not a bad investment. It had to happen in order for us to advance the technology of the world.
Right.
We had to have it.
Right.
We can't come to another COVID type incident where everything is crashing around the world because there's so much demand on the data. Where kids, school districts and things like that, kids couldn't even do homework. They couldn't obtain class material because the system was there's so much pressure being put on the system itself. It was, I forgot how many days I read a article, I think over 100 times a day it was crashing. And you can't have that in society where everything is crashing on a multiple levels, because then you can't operate, right? So I think where 5G comes into play hugely is that if something like COVID happened again and you had all this demand on the system, it wouldn't be such a issue and problems. We wouldn't come into those problems that we had during the whole COVID crisis.
Has it changed that much in 2 years?
Absolutely.
Wow,
absolutely.
That is incredible to know. I mean, that's so interesting. And this is a crazy question, I know, but you see these movies and everybody wants to know.
Mm-hmm.
Since 5G is not going to fry our brains and turn us into zombies and all of us start killing each other, which I got plenty of ammo. If it does happen, just come over here, man.
Too.
We're good. We're good over here, man.
Yeah.
I got 4,000 rounds in the closet. I'm ready, bro. Let's hope to God it doesn't happen, because honestly, in a very non-kidding way, shooting other people, no matter if they're trying to kill you or not, is not going to be a good thing. I've never done that, but I'm just saying it's not going to be good.
Yeah.
I tell Junior all the time, get your family when things go to hell. Come over here. We got plenty. We can roll. Need to stock up on ramen noodles and freaking fresh water. But
that's right. Your basics.
Yeah, but no, seriously though, because I've seen a movie before where they shot this code or this tone through the phone, and all of a sudden everybody's killing each other. Is that really possible?
I'm not going to say it's not, but I would say it's a lot less likely to happen.
And could terrorists get to that? I mean, could this could this lead to a really bad situation?
What I like to tell
I know
them,
you work for the company, and you're not can't say too much, but I'm saying, could we see a terrorist attack through cell phones in a bad way like that?
I mean, anything is possible in technology. It's just how we as humans decide to use it. And there's always going to be a bad carrot, as they say, and it's just up to the good ones to keep them out of the system.
Well, they had to ask the same thing about the Manhattan Project,
Yeah, absolutely.
They had to go, what if this gets into the wrong hands? Mm-hmm. Well, obviously, it's got into the wrong hands.
Yeah.
We haven't let one off yet. It's never been, Well, that's a couple more questions. I know it's
Sure.
getting late. But now, do you feel that 5G is going to help us keep up with terrorism and help
Absolutely.
stop it?
And I'll tell you why. Here, just in our system alone, just in the PTOC system, we have a company called PSafe. Excuse me. And we have a threat detection system, and we have some of the most advanced facial recognition and voice recognition software in the world. And what we can do is with our transportable network, we can go into like let's say, when you talk about terrorists, let's say domestic or international. Let's say we're going, I'll take the Vegas shooting, okay, where there's a concert, it's outside, you have tens of thousands of people attending this event. We can actually shoot our drone in the air and have 360 coverage. And we can have facial recognition and voice recognition. And our voice recognition is so far advanced that we can actually hear someone coming from about 50 kilometers away.
No way.
Yeah. That's how advanced the technology is nowadays. And before that person ever gets close to being a threat,
Well,
we can actually say, okay, well, this is a terrorist, and we can hear him talking. We can, we can go to a certain database, and then they can start listening in and that kind of stuff. What I think is going to happen with 5G, with this particular system, is that it's going to be a lot less likely for things like that to happen. Okay,
and
we're going to be able to hone in on someone, like for instance, the school shootings or the movie theater shootings, or let's say someone going into a casino and trying to blow it up, or to a nightclub and blowing it up. It's going to happen a lot less. It's going to be a lot less likely to happen with 5G and the advanced technology, is because we're going to be able to get that data to the right authorities in the right amount of time, to where within
That's
minutes they can, law enforcement's already going to be there and already know what's going on, and basically be able to stop a lot of bad things from happening. So,
okay, and okay, so this is what I found out because of the YouTube channel we have, the podcast that we're doing. We found out from the marketing company, because I got to do some solo motivational stuff, right? The actual AI can tell if I truly mean what I'm saying or I don't. So I've been practicing on the way home in my Hummer and the way back, almost like acting. Is that part of the 5G
yeah, we have artificial intelligence.
that can sense emotion?
Well, I don't know about emotion, but for instance, with our artificial intelligence, I think it will build to somewhat that complexity as we go from like 5G to 6G to 7G to 8G. There'll be some more complexity, some more in-depth intelligence that it will have and it will bring to the table. But I think there has to be a point where people in technology have to say, okay, well, how are we going to develop this software to a point where it doesn't really affect society in a negative manner, but more of a positive manner, and they can control what they're putting in that AI. If that makes sense.
And here's sorry, man. A couple more questions.
No, it's okay.
Okay, so here it is. This is pretty funny. So there's one night. Okay, me and the old ladies yelling at the kids.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, cops show up at the door. Come on in. My kids, of course, my kids are like sitting there smiling because we just got away with murder. Because, you don't want to whip your kids if you don't have to.
Sure.
I do bust their butt, but not very much, man. I try my best not to, especially because I work so many hours and Dad's coming home to whoop us. It's like, that's just not what I want to do. And I'm tired. I don't feel like whooping them. There's 4 of them.
That's right.
They outnumber me and their mom. But, okay, so, and the cops are like, we're sorry, no big deal, whatever. Okay. Well, then all of a sudden, me and the old lady's doing the nasty one night.
Mm-hmm.
And here comes the cops. Is that the freaking AI? Is that the phones that's hearing this?
No, that probably was your neighbor. hearing your old lady scream and probably thought something bad was happening. I would advise you to be a little bit softer next time.
I'm just saying it pretty funny, but you
Yeah.
know, I'm just like, you know, and me, I'm all Cialiced up, so I'm
Yeah.
out there. This lady cop out there is
There you
pretty
go.
embarrassing,
Yeah.
you know, because I mean, and we were laughing. Well, can we talk to your wife? I'm like, yeah, sure, honey, get some clothes on, get out of here.
Yeah, absolutely.
You gotta ask those questions.
Yeah.
So, on a personal level,
Yeah.
what's your next step? I mean, you're so young and you're so successful. Where are you going to go with this? Where are you going to go with your career after this? I mean, are you?
You know, I've sacrificed a lot getting here, and I think that my next step is I tell everyone I have a 5-year plan, and once that's accomplished, my plan is to be on the same level as my granddad did with me with my kids, and I want to be there for them because that was an instrumental part in shaping who I became and how I grew up and how I dealt with certain things in my life. And I was very blessed that my grandfather was involved in my life because he taught me what unconditional love was. He taught me the difference between being a winner and a champion at a very young age. And then he also taught me what it was to be a man. And a lot
That's
of times
awesome, dude.
in
That's
this
awesome.
in this age and time, I think a lot of the males that come from, I would say, the millennials, they've lost a little bit of that manliness in their character.
I
And
agree.
not to say that, I'm not judging them for that, but to be a man, sometimes there's certain things and certain traits that you have to take on about yourself and create a environment to where you always lead the family, you always lead your kids. It's very important that you
And
keep that patriarch sensitivity about that part of being a man
do you feel what?
in your life.
Look, everybody asks me this a lot. You know,
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you. What's the secret to your success? Is it just knowing that you're going where you're going and you're getting there?
Here it is. Have 3 things. Hard work. Never hurt anyone.
I mean,
Right.
that's the deal.
Never give up. You're going to have a lot of obstacles. You're going to have a lot of people tell you, well, you can't do this, you can't do that.
Don't tap out.
That's right. Never tap out. Never give. And number 3, surround yourself with people that are way smarter than you.
Right.
If you do that, 9 times out of 10, you'll be successful.
Amen to that. And with me and my wife, we had a discussion in bed just a couple nights ago, and I looked at her and I said, "You realize? I mean, I walk with giants. I mean, literal giants. I mean, my manager Jeff Hansen, definitely a great man.
Mm-hmm.
Just a great heart. Just freaking his success story is outrageous. Richard Williams, I mean, another guy that just, and it's funny because Richard was here yesterday. Denny Sanders, these guys, I look up to them. They're older than me,
Right.
but I hang out with these guys because they're legends.
Right.
Is that what you suggest to people, even though they're not in music? I mean, in a day to day, where you want to go, hang out with those guys you want to be like, or surround yourself with people that are just successful?
I'll answer that for you. There's a man sitting out your studio right now. His name
I
is
love him. He's
Seneca
awesome.
Jacobs.
He's awesome, man.
In the 3 years that I've known him, I've learned so much from him. Not just in business, but in how to deal in my personal life, whether it be with marriage, deal with my kids, deal with certain situations. He has a very direct but mature outlook on how you deal with certain situations, and that has helped me grow in my emotional intelligence and how I deal with things. And that's huge when you get to a certain level of business and just in life, that you keep that emotional intelligence about you. Because a lot of times people are not expecting that, right? People are expecting you to fly off the handle in certain situations.
Keep your cool.
But when you keep your cool and you're quiet and you just look at someone, but you just use your eyes to let them know what you're thinking. It messes with them, right? And sometimes that's more powerful than words or actions. And I've learned that, through this cycle of emotional intelligence, it makes you see the world in a different light, and how you walk about, and when someone challenges you on something, or you get something thrown at you out of left field that you never thought you would ever see, you're more prepared and capable of dealing with that stuff.
So I'm going to get off the Joe Rogan questions
Sure.
and get to the nitty gritty. Do you feel like your relationship with God helps you control that?
Yeah, absolutely. God is he's the pillar,
the creator.
He's the pillar of my life. I'm not what people would say. I'm not a Bible thumper, but I was raised in the Methodist Church. I was brought up. I went through confirmation, but my belief in Christianity may be a little bit different than what a lot of my constituents or people that I'm around would say would be a good Christian. For me,
hang on, time out here.
Yeah.
One of my best friends, one of my boys, is named after him.
Mm-hmm.
He was a pastor, and he ended up he was with Atlantic, or getting signed to Atlantic, and I did some songs on him, and that's why we became so close. And I saw him and understood that God is not criticizing you for having fun. That's the problem. Everybody thinks, well, and we're going to have fun. And I mean,
Malcolm,
yeah.
First and foremost, if you understand anything about our God, He's a loving God.
Yeah, it's like He's not mad because you're having fun.
That's right. He just expects you to listen to what He's teaching. And I'm not going to get on the Bible thump here, but what I'm saying is that if you understand that all God wants you to do is have a relationship with Him, repent, ask Him for forgiveness, because He's a forgiving God as well. But He loves you unconditionally. And a lot of people don't understand what unconditionally means.
Right.
That means without waver, He loves us no matter what.
Do you think that belief has helped you in your business and success?
Yes, absolutely.
100%.
There's been times.
I feel like it's helped me in my success.
If you look at the suicidal rate of entrepreneurs in the world, there's a very high percentage of entrepreneurs that go in that kill themselves because people don't see the heartache and the sacrifices and the stresses to success. And some guys never get there, right? Which is sad. I love all my people in entrepreneurship. I love everyone. But specifically in the entrepreneur, to be a serial entrepreneur is a very rough route to take. And a lot of times people don't see that. They don't see the hardship that you go through. They really don't. They want your status. They want your job. They want your title, but they have no clue what it took to get there.
Right. Like for me, it was tough having 30 some odd platinum records hanging on the wall and sleeping at a studio because the music business shifted gears, and that shifting gears really threw a wrench in, especially in rock,
Sure.
And let me ask you, on a personal level, do you feel like your success has hurt your personal life?
Yeah, it has. I mean, and that's one of the sacrifices that a lot of people don't see is it put a huge strain on both my marriages. Both when I started out in oil and gas and I was away, and I was making a good living, and every man wants to provide and give a certain lifestyle and be able to do certain things in their life without having the worry of where the money's going to come from, and they don't want their wives to worry about that because honestly, that's the number one thing that people get divorced for is finances, right?
Oh, exactly.
Unless it's adultery or something like that, but mainly it's finances. Because when a woman doesn't feel secure anymore, that's when things start going south pretty fast. Just from my experience.
And from my experience,
but my second wife, she's pretty phenomenal in that she's a great mother to my kids, but I think it takes a special kind of woman to really understand the heart of a champion in the entrepreneur world. I'm not talking about a winner. I'm talking about a champion. And when I say champion, What I mean on a level, I'll just put an example out here. Someone like Bill Gates or Elon Musk, people that have sacrificed everything to get where they want to be, to provide for their kids, to provide a certain, in Elon's case, to give back to society with his technology, because that's actually what he's doing.
Right.
That's very important to a lot of us, is to help society.
And would you recommend to those people out there that are going for it? I mean, would you recommend them staying single before they get there what they want? Because me, I feel like there's no mountaintop, and as soon as I figured that out, that's when I fell in love with my little lady, because I was like,
Excuse me.
I'm going to get to the top of a mountain, and I'm going to raise my hands up, and there's going to be this big,
Sure.
oh, I made it. And then I find out as I get older, about 43, 44, I'm like, there is no mountaintop. It's just one uphill climb, and you enjoy the climb,
Yeah.
and you become the fight. That's what I try to tell people. Is that how you look at it too?
Yeah, to an extent, I think that it's more of, for me, it's, right now, your mind changes as you go through, you get out of your relationship and you're single again. Your mind focuses, especially if you have kids, it focuses more on, building that empire for your kids and have a legacy.
A legacy, yeah.
And that's the most important thing, is leaving a legacy. Not, for me right now, especially with this technology, it's not mine. I didn't develop it. My founder did. Her name is Miss Christina Vu, smartest lady I've ever met. And what I see is, when we push this technology and get it out to the world the way it's supposed to be mainstreamed, everything in my personal life will change dramatically, in that I'll have a little bit more time to focus on my kids in different areas. And I say I'm going to have more time because it's going to be busy. But when you're building something, right, you're always focusing on getting it to that point to where it launches. Then when it launches, most entrepreneurs are like, okay, well, I can take a breath for a second, but then they go to the next one and they're going to the next challenge. And that's the thing about a serial entrepreneur, is they always have something going, always.
And that's, this podcast is proof that I'm that kind of guy. I just, and it's so funny when you talk to people, it's like, oh, I'm not going to lose, because I don't lose. I'm a winner. Mm-hmm. And that sounds cocky, but it doesn't, because if you're a guy that just is not, you're going to be the Oakland Raiders 1985, and you're going to drive the ball up the middle, up the gut, and you're going to get every inch, and you're going to earn every inch you get before you get that touchdown. And
Right.
that touchdown doesn't mean that you win the fucking game. That just means that you scored, and it's time to
That's
play
right.
defense now. Get the ball back and run another one. And it's just, and I've always looked at myself. Do you feel like, because I can tell this what you're doing is like my long record. Mm-hmm. When I start on a record, I'm so hyper focused, and I've learned to be a father with the success. And because going home, stopping tonight at 7:00 because I had a podcast to do, and going, guys, let's continue tomorrow. And what's funny is I used to worry so much about what my artists thought. I used to just, man, I bet they're pissed because we quit early. That's not early. That's normal.
Sure.
I started at 8:30 this morning. And so 7:00. Hey, man, that's not my normal work day. But by the time I go home, I'm doing 16 hours, and you know what? That's plenty for a man to work.
Sure. Absolutely.
But dividing those things up, because you live in Dubai. Mm-hmm. And I want to just ask you, how is it living in Dubai and having your boys over here? Your children over here.
It's rough. My boys and my daughter, it's rough, but what keeps me going is just the motivation that, I continue to try to build on that legacy for them and give them something that, it's not that I didn't have, because my grandparents gave me a wonderful life, a wonderful upbringing. But it's more of giving them something more. and something that I didn't have. And I think that's every parent's wish, is to provide that, right? Whether it be, not so much financially, but obviously financial is a big part of it because, hey, we all know we need money to live, right? But for me, the toughest part of being in Dubai is when I'm FaceTiming with my kids.
So I was about to say,
And
you
my
better do a
son-
lot of FaceTime, don't
My
you?
son says, "Daddy, are you coming to sleep with me tonight?" And I'm like, "Yes." I'm sorry, son, I can't. Daddy will be home. I'm working. And so, for me, that's the hardest part of it.
Man, I know that's got to be tough. And that's
Yeah.
what happened with me because I was over here for, 3 or 4 years before I moved the family over here. And it was just like to see my little boys go, "I love you, Daddy." My little girls, oh my God. It's like, oh my God, my heart's breaking, especially when my oldest one became a teenager and she's out of control and I'm over here on the record and I'm like
Yeah.
going insane. I'm talking insane.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm smoking cigarettes, pacing the floor, I'm cussing and
Well, you can't focus on work anymore.
Exactly.
Your focus is there now. And so what I've learned is throughout the years is when I get like that, I just have to put everything away and I focus back on my kids until I can come back to this. Because if I try to go back, my mind is in a different place. And when you do that, you make mistakes in business. And when when you get to a certain level, you can't afford to make mistakes.
Do you look at yourself, and this is a great question, as an artist? Do you feel like what you do is a form of art?
Yeah.
I
but
think everything is myself, but I'm an artist, so
Sure, absolutely. But I think that, my greatest masterpieces are my kids.
That's awesome, man.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Man, we've been here a long time.
Yeah.
I've wore you out. I know I have.
No, this has
Man,
been fantastic. I appreciate you having me.
It's so awesome becoming friends with you and Seneca because you guys are down to earth. We gotta find Seneca, that special
Yeah.
woman, one of these days, man. I'm
If
looking
she's-
for him.
if
I'm
she's
looking-
out there.
I'm looking,
I don't know if she's out
it's gonna
there.
be hard to tie that man down.
Yeah.
Big old handsome fella like that, man.
That's
It's
right.
freaking, he's going freaking be a hard guy to tie down. But there's a woman out there that can rope him down, and it's gonna be over with one of these days. He's gonna be like, man, okay, I give up.
Yeah.
I surrender. Thank you so much for
Yes.
coming on the podcast.
Matt, thank
man.
you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. It's been a
appreciate
pleasure.
it.